Hey, welcome to Coffee Connect. I'm Rodney. I'm the host. Uh, I know I'm not sharing, but that's okay. We'll get to sharing here in a second. Gonna have a great conversation, great breakdown today. I really hope everybody brought your brains because we're probably gonna do some thinking a little bit. I don't want to hurt you. And I shared with a couple of the job seekers earlier. I said, listen, this isn't intended to be any kind of a. This is what problems I personally am experiencing. I want to capture a bigger, a broader scope of this because I think many of us believe that job searches, as fast and as technology driven as what they have become, I firmly believe that uh, because of ATS, right, the tracking systems and things like that, that there are probably companies out there that don't have a fallback to go, who may have fell through the cracks, right? What talent did we miss out on because our system or process that we put into place, right, is that automated that we're missing out on conversations with talented people like Patrick, or talent that could be brought through our door like Pam and things like that. And so uh, while I want to be able to open the floor for those job seekers that are having challenges and seeing difficulties and kind of going through this experience to share, I also ultimately want to create a voice here that maybe can feed back to some of those companies and organizations that are helping job seekers, as well people that are hiring folks right now, to maybe even question themselves as to, is the process that we have in place, right, the thing that's leading us to the best talent for the best cost, right? Does everybody follow me as far as what today's accomplishments, or what today's goals are for the entire group, right? And so I'm going to open the floor to those folks before I start sharing, um, that are going through the challenge of job search right now, and let's put it on the table. Like, what are some of those things with the process, the systems out there and stuff, as well, just your job search in general that you maybe have experienced that might be holding things back. Don't all speak at once.
Yeah, Rodney, I'll throw out, I did just a little bit of thinking and some research on this and, trying to come up with some of the topics, but a couple of them that jumped out were it's a tight market. It's not necessarily a bad market. There's people that are still hiring, but there are fewer openings. It's a slower and longer hiring process, which leads people to feel stuck, right? You're just in that wait and see, limited roles to apply for. One big thing that hits me because I am in the tech sector, so there's more competition, especially at the more senior levels, and driven a lot by, if you've read the articles about Oracle, Meta, IBM, Salesforce, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, all of them have had significant layoffs, right? And so you've kind of added talent to the market, which just you have to up the how do you show up game. So I'll yield to somebody else.
For me, this is Daniel Johnson, Jr. here. I remember when I was unemployed back in 2009, and this was before there was a lot of adoption or creation of these ATS applicant tracking systems. Everyone was submitting their resume through email or through a company website, but never hearing anything back. And it seems to me that an applicant tracking system, that technology was created to help manage some of this. But from a job seeker perspective, it feels like if I'm going to go ahead and submit an application, it's just going out there into the internet somewhere for somebody to possibly find, unless I can find somebody who works in that company to go and take a physical read of that resume, and also maybe to send an actual PDF of my resume to them directly.
I'll add to that. This is Logan McKenzie. Great points from both gentlemen before. Um, Overall, it seems like a very impersonal point of entry into a very personal process. I went 10 years without being in the job search market. So, what's changed in 10 years has been truly eye-opening for me. While companies are still hiring for a person, they're still hiring an individual with a unique set of skills and experiences. The entry into that seems anything but personal and individual focused. It's very, again, you're lost amongst a sea of hundreds or thousands of applicants, resumes floating around. Everybody's using the same tools with the same advantages to get similar results, and it just feels like a very impersonal process, despite the fact that companies seem to have a very specific, focused objective for their hiring, and that's the other thing I've kind of noticed as well is companies seem less open to taking chances on people that they see potential in or see as a good potential fit for this role as somebody that's malleable and teachable. Often I see people being told they don't have enough experience or they have too much experience or they're not checking this very specific box that seems very unobtainable in some instances, whereas before previously I felt companies were more open to seeing the potential in people, seeing the potential in an individual, understanding how their skills and experiences, while maybe a little outside of the box, could be applied to what they were looking for and shaped into an incredibly productive and successful employee.
And
I think we lost our host.
Yeah.
He appeared to freeze and then he disappeared. So Logan, it's not what you said. I think it's something on Rodney's side.
you're really
Good to know.
But great points. And the one as I was going through things, it's that unicorn expectations. And I think that's age agnostic, right? And it's where we're at. Depending upon the level of role that you're looking for. It's just like when they come out and in an entry level role, they say they want 3 to 5 years experience. There's just a complete disconnect of expectation versus reality.
Yeah, don't have 6. You better have 3 to 5. Don't have 6 and don't have 2. Yeah. You got to fit right into that box there sometimes.
And be willing to work for like $15 an hour too.
Yes, exactly.
That's right.
And I would
That's
say
right.
this, my experience is I can remember interviewing for work in 2001, during the recession of 9 and 10. I did a lot of interviewing in 14, and I did a lot of interviewing before I started my business in 2021. And I would say I also feel like leadership who makes the final decision on whether that person gets hired or not, many of them they don't quite know what they want. They don't have a lot of confidence in what they're doing, and they're not strong decision makers. I literally went into interviews, in 2021. I did some interviewing in 2001 and 2005. And I have to tell you, all I had to do was sit down and show that I was smart and capable, and I had job offers that day. And that is a leader that knows who they are, what they want, and they want to get somebody in. They recognize every single day that seat isn't filled is work that is not being accomplished. And they also have a very strong understanding that there is a time period, a learning curve of bringing somebody new in. So the sooner you get somebody in, the sooner you can get them really up to speed. And sitting around twiddling your fingers, waiting. And it also means you have to have the confidence to realize that the company cultural fits that we talk so much about are they have to be flexible enough to include lots of different types of people and personalities. And if you're truly only hiring for a cultural fit that per person has to fit a very specific way, it is going to take 8 interviews or 10 interviews to get somewhere with somebody because your culture doesn't have any give room. So I would say, I think it's not just human resources. I think it's leadership as well. And I feel also for human resources, while they are given a lot of time to go after college grads, they'll go to those job fairs at colleges and meet people in person. They don't necessarily spend a huge amount of time in person with mid-career or late career professionals. And that's a huge part of it, is because we know a lot of times people hire who they know. And the candidates that are coming in just through submitting online, through their AI portals, that's impersonal, and you can reject that very easily versus someone who might be a 75% fit that you know, and you know their work ethic and you know how smart they are. You might have an AI, a submitted online candidate that's 98% fit, but the 75% person's going to get it because they know that person, they know their work ethic, they know versus just what you see on paper. So there's a lot of interpersonal relationships, and Lamar is so good about reminding all of us about really trying to get in front of people. One of the tactics I started doing in the last year was, if I wanted to be a consultant with that company, I started trying to connect with the HR person online and say, hey, I'm going to be around. Can I bring you a coffee? Can you meet out for a coffee? Because I want to start meeting the people in person and just avoid all of the problems with internet.
Rita, can I jump in because I agree a lot with you? What most of you have said, if you think about it, human resources does not get incentive for hiring the best candidate. They get killed when they don't hire, when they hire somebody that doesn't do the job. So there is no incentive looking through that. And that's where it comes back to what everybody's been saying. Why can't I get in the door? It's impersonal at the larger the company, the more likely that's to happen. Lamar, I think, can vouch for, in all the research we've seen in the years, the middle market companies for higher level positions usually have what Rita was saying. It has somebody that's in ownership or in leadership that actually takes a strong role in finding the right people to fit the culture. So realize if you're going into a larger company, it really is important to highlight what some of the other people had said. You need the connection to validate what Rita was saying, that the culture fits and they are going to look for the best candidate, not just the tick boxes, or look for the smaller company where you will get the opportunity to highlight, because they more often than not need more of the skills and you're not going to be in a silo or a box. So that's where it's so important to go back to your contacts and just reconnect with them. Let them know what you're doing, because just in breakouts, if you've been in Coffee Connect, you know, Clint just today said, do you know this guy? And the answer was yes. So you never know where it's going to come from, but realize HR is not your friend. The systems are not your friend. They're going to take you and put you in a grinder. And that's just the results. It's been that way since the 80s, folks. If you don't know somebody, it's going to be that much harder for you. So look to help through how you can bring your expertise into that organization in a way that makes the person want to talk to you.
One thing that I have found is, when you get that initial interview with the HR person, it seems like they don't really, at least in my field, because I'm in the sciences, they don't know what you're talking about. So a lot of times it's tough to show that you have the knowledge because they don't have a clue. And nothing against them. They're trying to fill 1,000 different positions in 1,000 different fields.
And
But
that is even more tough for you, Brian, because you also then have to have almost a split personality. You have to be willing to show that you're the ultimate cultural fit and that you are willing to talk to people who don't have that technical side and not talk down to them, but also say when when it's ready, when it's appropriate, I'm happy to talk technical. And you also, so you have to have both sides going at the same time. And that gets even more tough because human resources, right off the bat, you may know right off the bat, they don't have the technical acumen to be talking about that. But who knows, right? Who knows? All along your interview path, there's no way to know what shade of technical acumen they have, and coming up with it could be a minefield for you as to are they technical, are they not? And you want to show your technical side where it's appropriate, but knowing where that's at could be a landmine.
Yes, I'd agree.
And so I apologize for the technical disruption there. Jeff, now my new computer is down totally, so I don't know what the hell just happened. But
Well, welcome back, Rodney.
yeah,
Nice to join us.
And unfortunately, all my notes and everything are on that laptop, not in the cloud for this session and stuff. So, yeah, it sounds to me like somebody took the lead and kept the conversation going.
I know Pam. I know Pam wanted to say something.
Yeah, go ahead,
It's
Pam.
okay. In the field I am, it's a very competitive market because I have some, for one position, you may have, let's say, 20 different applicants, but some are willing to relocate for that right job. So that really makes it tough in a specific role that you're trying to get into. And the best way that I know how to stand out is getting in front of the hiring manager. And I have an idea who that would be depending on the company. So that's how I stand out as a candidate, but it doesn't always work.
Anybody else? So, again, part of the conversation today wasn't centered around, hey, we want to talk about these things that we know are there. Like, we know we've got to be positive. We know we've got to be surrounded with great people that kind of keeps us moving through this process and stuff. We know the networking connections, relationships have to be built and things. And I think Dave was hitting on that a little bit. I'm not sure because I missed out on 5 minutes of that conversation, right? My question is what can we actively voice so that maybe companies, right, can become aware of some of the things that might be slipping through the cracks, right, so to speak. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I'd like to ask the group that's currently networking for positions, how often do you ask what some of the problems are or what some of the issues that would most benefit the company, that would make the best candidate for that group so that you can bring your attributes to the table? Does anybody do that? Do they with HR?
That's one of my questions I ask them.
And do they typically give you the opportunity to get information from them? HR would assume probably doesn't have that much. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement, but they do know what the qualities are that they are looking for in the specific position. It's probably in the job description. Job description is king. And the HR recruiter, if it's internal, should know that answer as well. It'll confirm what's in the job description.
Has anybody gone back and looked for people that were at that organization in similar positions in the past and chatted with them?
This
I
is
have
Debbie.
actually.
Oh, sorry.
I have, but that gives me an idea what their culture used to be like and how it developed since then.
To me, it just keeps coming back to Lamar's used this comment, we are all salespeople. And a salesperson always gets, unless you happen to be at the door knocking at the exact right time that somebody needs 500 pounds of, X grade steel, if you're producing steel, you're not going to get a yes, but you're going through that process. So realize when you put your job information into a system, they have a position out there, but they also have 16 vendors, other candidates.
Mhm.
So it's so critical that through the job description or everything else, if you're not putting into the cover letter or into your executive summary stuff specific to what makes you better, I mean, that's all that it is. It's just that and catching the right people at the right time. But it's a perseverance of here's how I can help you. I can't stress that enough because the energy level of saying knock knock, will you hire me is so difficult. I've been through that twice in my life, and that's why I ended up. It's easier to be an entrepreneur for an introvert than it is to knock on doors saying I want a job, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
This is Debbie. I really like what everyone has shared. I mean, I feel like everything everyone said is where I'm at in my head in this process. And I guess I'm kind of curious when I know we're all obviously, job seeking in varied areas, but when you all interview, do you tend to follow along with whatever format the call agenda is driven, by the HR person generally? Or do you find yourself, as I'm sorry, I can't recollect the last gentleman that was his name that was just speaking, but he was saying about asking, what their pain points are, etc. As far as ad-libbing during an interview. Because again, they're usually 20, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour. It just depends on the person and the company. But I'm saying, do you find yourself following just along with, answering their questions to the best of your ability? Or do you also, try to interject things like that do you understand where I'm going, what I'm saying?
I think I understand some of what you're saying. This is Daniel. Debbie, I think based on my experience, most of the time when I'm talking with somebody from HR, if it's a phone screen, they just got a checklist of questions
Yep.
that they're looking to get answered to see if it's worth to pass this person on to the next stage. And if there's not a lot of flexibility, or maybe they don't know themselves, and it's a question to ask of somebody that is much closer to the hiring manager or the hiring
Yep.
manager themselves.
Thank you. And that's where I think it falls
And
through too a lot is because they, like a couple of you said, like if you can't get past that first person due to no fault of your own, and then
and
you don't get moved forward, and you could be very likely a good potential candidate, but you don't get to that next step. So,
Debbie, I
yeah,
try to find those pain points before I talk to HR.
I say,
And that way, when you are talking to them, they may not be uh, the technical side of the job that you're going for, but it allows you to bring up in your answers maybe some examples on how you can resolve that pain point without actually mentioning it.
that makes sense. When you say you find out prior to talking with HR, you by making a connection prior if you can, is that what you're saying?
Correct. Like in my position, I have different resources that I can go to figure out in environmental health and safety. You can go to the OSHA website and do an
Hmm,
establishment search, and that'll tell me if they've had any inspections or anything like that. And that would be a pain point for me.
I see.
So
Same thing with EPA. That'll tell me if they have any permits out there.
I'd like to go to breakout room, and all these are great conversations. I think if we get into smaller groups, hopefully it'll flow a little bit smoother, and then we can kind of come back together and hopefully share some more ideas collectively as a group. Some things I want, and I'd show you the slides, but I can't because I'm on a separate computer now. But and I don't want to try and switch because God only knows what would happen. And so some things I want you to keep in mind, right? Obviously, the technology gap is there, and there's things there that may or may not be preventing us from being seen and being able to be seen and stuff. I want to kind of keep it to that. Logan brought up a conversation. He said, and this is right when I got kicked off. He said they've taken a very impersonal, basically, approach to what should be a personal experience, right? When you're in this job search and stuff. And so, look at that perception gap that is there from what's going on, and then the process gap is out there as well. And so keeping those three things in focus, that's what I want to kind of keep the conversations to. And then we're going to come back and we'll talk, we'll share, and I want to talk about the internal gap that might be there, meaning where are we also creating complacency in our process searches and stuff, right? That might be able to help us gather new information. And so I'm going to open up the rooms. I will see. We're going to go probably for about 15 minutes, guys. I don't have a hard set time. I want to make sure before I said that. So we should have plenty of time to introduce ourselves and then come back and share. Amazing. It's amazing.
Did any of
The
this work?
conversations you can have and hopefully the solutions that you can provide. Curious, I mean, what came out of the conversations? Wow.
Lamar's first.
Go ahead, Lamar.
I'm actually going to pass the ball. I'm putting him on the spot because he's an introvert, but Dave Scoglin gave some great advice as we were wrapping up. So Dave, if you'd share about the importance of your why and your how.
No, you give the summary, because if you can explain it, then it hit home with the other people.
Well, what Dave was talking about is when you're applying for a job, you want to make sure that first of all it meets your why. Is this something you want to do? And then after you prepared for it and all that, then when you're doing the interview is why it's your why, but also the experience you have and how you get things done. Okay. And then I'll add my own little tidbit is most opportunities, if you're meeting with HR, before you do that, and I think somebody already mentioned this before, find out who they're connected with and reach out to them. And this is a great place to start. Send invitation or connect with people in this group, have a one-to-one, and then if they're interested, connect on LinkedIn. This group is going to have so many connections, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, yeah. You know, we talked about a couple things. I mean, I said there's barriers to what we're trying to do and stuff and accomplish. I said sometimes there's just a language thing, and we have to look at what we're doing and what we're saying. And we may be talking about how we've presented ourselves for the last 10, 15 years, which given today's day and age with technology and stuff, isn't the same way that maybe current employers or that the applicant tracking system is receiving that same language, right? And so we might want to look at that. Obviously, we want to be able to just be ourselves and say who we are, but sometimes there could be a detriment to that too, right? What else came out of our conversation there, Tim and Martin and Daniel?
Well,
Rodney, I can
and
jump in for group two.
Yeah.
Really quick, I think from a tech gap standpoint, we talked about from an employer standpoint, leveraging the ATS systems obviously creates, they have the ability to go through a lot more applications than they did before, right? Because they're not reading them. But from the job seeker standpoint, we're all encouraged to use AI assisted prep. So using the tools that are available to match resume to job description with the sole purpose of getting our foot in the door, and then we can let ourselves show up. But in a way, if you've got 500 applications, 10 of them make the cut, it's a little bit of the sea of sameness, right? We all look the same to that system, so somebody has to weed us out. From an impersonal approach to what should be a personal process, again, back to the technology, the roles I'm looking for and have interviewed with, I haven't had a single in person because they're all remote. So I'm looking at a little box at somebody else through a camera, not a very personal experience with that.
Yeah.
And then the volume, right? So it creates a communication challenge for the employer, and we get this ghosting where you even go through an interview and you don't hear back. My challenge is do better. We've got the technology and the tools to say which ones move forward and which ones don't make the cut. I'd rather have a very impersonal cold email rejection than nothing at all, right? So that's kind of a simple thing. And then from a process, we talked about, again, closing the door if we don't make it. Let's kind of tighten that process up a little bit. And then the fact of the matter is it's a supply and demand thing right now, right? And so there's a greater supply than there is demand, and we're all kind of churning towards how do we make ourselves look different so that we get in the door and we can show up with our best version of us.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. Daniel. Hang tight 1 second. Logan, where you at, man? Where you at, Logan? Uh, and so
Right here.
we, I wanted to, somebody. We were in a conversation with Pam Farwick last week. Clinton and I, or I'm sorry, Pam McWhirter, Clinton and I was at breakfast, and she was bringing up all kinds of great points and conversations. And one of the things she said, "Hey, can we bring some people in that are under the age of 40?" And uh, this is why I tried to make sure Logan and Martin were in separate rooms because you guys are both younger. Uh, Ray, I threw you in a separate room as well. Ray's 40, but he ain't gonna answer. But Logan, I mean, as far as your perception from a younger person's point of view, I mean, is anything different for you from the technology gap and the process gap that's out there?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I'm certainly on the younger side here. But I remember a hiring landscape, a job seeking landscape even 10 years ago that was vastly different from what it is now. Again, I remember turning in paper applications and meeting hiring managers on the spot and being able to phone call anybody in the company and get a connection and have an in. And what I'm noticing now, and those are all practices you still apply today, but what I'm noticing now is a lot more companies and people are less they're more hesitant to make those connections. And I'm talking about people at the companies I'm applying to or seeking out. And I feel like it's because a lot of these companies, and it's more prevalent in bigger companies, but I'm sure it's an issue also as well in smaller mid-size. A lot of these companies have processes automated and put in place, whether it's to interview people through AI or through some sort of pre-recorded video, whether it's self-scouting or hiring, outsourcing for applications and job seekers. They have tools and people in place to do these things for them, and so they seem less interested in establishing a personal connection with a job seeker to break on through. And so we can use technology to our advantage to stand out. Certainly doing that with AI and with connections and networking and meeting people and asking about challenges. But sometimes you hit a roadblock when you try to reach out and connect to somebody and you get nothing. And oftentimes it feels like it's because they don't want to put that time in because as a hiring manager or as a company hiring, I've got a process in place that's
Yes.
already working for me to find the perfect candidate. I don't need to spend my time to entertain this person that's a mystery to me.
But is it really working? That's the question, right? Daniel, go ahead.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, one of the things that you brought up in our group, Rodney, was that there might be the case when somebody is needing what we have, but they don't know how we talk about it. For example, somebody may have the experience that they need, but in the industry where it's worked, it's talked about. They use different language, and so that the way that they're phrasing it could be something. I don't know, Rodney, if you wanted to elaborate where you were coming from with that.
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of sometimes we just got to look in the mirror and go, hey, we've this is the role we were in, this is the skills we were using, this is the industry, company, all of those things, and we kind of paint ourselves in this box, right? And as much as a company might look at their processes, go, this is how we hire people, right? I think we also have to look outside, like, is the process that we've created for ourselves and the beliefs that we put in our head that says, I'm only allowed to be in the construction industry. I'm only allowed to do these things. I'm only allowed to lead this many people and stuff like that. Or like we have to look at maybe that's not what is really true here because if you've led two people, you can lead five, right? I mean, you can really evolve to lead five or more, right? Or if you've used administration skills in one industry, you can probably use them in another, right? And so try not to paint yourself into this corner that and open yourselves up to these other industries, despite the fact that your comfort level lies in just one thing, right? Pam, go ahead.
Yep. So in our group, one of the main things we're focusing on was marketing, which the online presence of a LinkedIn account. I used me as the example because they were trying to get ideas. I build my LinkedIn profile to show employers, environmental health and safety managers, engineers, what I can do to build that safer work environment. I'm showing them what I can do. And by that, they're linking up with me on LinkedIn, even though they may not be in my area, but on their feeds, they will post environmental health and safety positions that are not posted anyplace else. So I am seeing that firsthand. So that's how I do the marketing, and that gave them additional ideas of how to do it on their end.
Yeah, and I would tell you from your standpoint, right? We all know, we've all heard of the horror stories of what data centers are doing, and it might not be a personal environmental health and safety, but truly a community environmental health and safety standards that we need to look at because of the electricity consumption, the water consumption, all of those things that data centers are putting in. So start thinking about how you can use those skills in all the upcoming technology and stuff like that's coming to true in all the communities around us and stuff. So 11:05, we're already way past what our time was to cut off and stuff. Great conversations today. Hopefully the job seekers out there got some great ideas from the conversations as well. I think we've got some good stuff to hopefully put into the summary letter that's going to feed back to employers that are out there as well, other organizations like Job Search Focus Group and NCAG that are helping people in this realm. Martin, you got something to add?
I just wanted to say welcome to Sophia Fair. She's from my country. I'm also from Ghana, so
Yes,
I think
she
I
is.
need to connect with her. So that's what I wanted to say. All right,
As soon as she said that, I started looking for you. I'm like, "Where's Martin?" Wait.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
I'm also from Ghana. Yeah. All right.
Awesome. Listen, guys, go out.
Very competitive.
Yeah, go out there. I'll stick around for a little bit if you guys need to, but go out there. Have a great week, everybody, and remember, I love you guys. All right.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
And share this meeting with others in your network.